Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, home of the satirical saltire. I'm Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter. With me this evening, I've got my usual wingman. I've got JB Whitesnake. All right, JB, how's it going, buddy?
Not bad, Peter. Good to see you again, friend.
It's always good to see you, mate. It's always good to see you. And we've got a grassroots guest co-host with us. We've got Porty Soul. Porty, how you doing, buddy?
Very well, Peter. Very well. Thank you for inviting me on tonight.
You're very welcome. Well, you know why you're here. We've got one of these guests that doesn't come along very often for we podcasts like this and we channels like this. So we're really appreciative to have Alex Christoforou with us this evening. Thanks very much for joining us, Alex. Welcome to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for hosting me. Really appreciate it.
It's an honour. It's an honour. I certainly watch your work. I look at what you do. I like the nature you put on it for it being such a serious issue, and you try and because it's really tough at the minute for everybody in every country, as we see there's uprisings everywhere, and the media don't want to seem to cover it. So when you've got guys like yourself, it's a wee bit of inspiration for we things and we operations like our own. So thanks very much for doing what you're doing, giving us that wee bit of inspiration, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Right, so we'll get right in about it. We're going to talk a wee bit about Scottish politics first, before we talk about world politics, and give you a bit of an insight, because there's something you say, as much as I love your blog and your videos and the Duran as well, but you refer to the UK. Now, being Scottish independence supporters, we tend to not use that phrase. We tend to, because it's not a United Kingdom. We're Scotland. There is England, who are our neighbours, and then we have Wales and 6 counties in Ireland. Hopefully Ireland will be reunified shortly, as well as Scotland being independent. So just some for future, when you're referring to it, maybe give a wee bit of consideration for us Scottish independence supporters, please. No, I've seen your blog today, your earlier one today, and again, on the money for the opposite of the reports that we get here from the media here. And you were speaking about Orban in Hungary in the latest one, and you referred to a map that you showed in a previous podcast of yours. So just for our guests, can you tell us a wee bit about that, just so that I can go into the Scottish slant on it I want you to get to?
Yeah, well, Medvedev, who used to be Dmitry Medvedev, who used to be the Russian president, in between terms for Putin, he was actually the president of Russia. He is now the deputy secretary of the Security Council, which is the main decision-making body of Russia. A lot of people have the misconception, and this is helped along by the Western mainstream media, that Putin is this all-powerful, all-decision-making dictator and autocrat. As a matter of fact, the main body that makes all the decisions for Russia, at least most of the decisions for Russia, across a wide spectrum of topics, whether it's domestic stuff, economic, or even the conflict in Ukraine, is what is known as the Security Council. And it's got experts in different fields. It's got economic experts, it's got military, the Minister of Defense Shoigu is there. It's got people who are experts on legal issues, and Lavrov and foreign ministry stuff. And Dmitry Medvedev is the deputy secretary of this very, very influential, very important decision-making body in Russia. And he's kind of been acting as the muscle in the media narrative with regards to what's going on in Ukraine. And I mean it in a way that he's sending out the most provocative, like, Telegram posts and messages, and he's trolling a lot. And I think that he's kind of assumed that role, whether by accident or perhaps the Kremlin said, you know what, Dmitry, you're good at this stuff, so just keep on going. But he put up a map on Telegram just yesterday, and the first map was Ukraine as we remember it, say in 2001 or something like that. Ukraine there, you had the whole map was Ukraine. You even had Crimea. as part of Ukraine in that map. And he said that Dmitry Medvedev said that this is how Zelensky, under the influence of certain narcotics, this is how he views Ukraine. And then he sent a second map out and he said, this is the map that Western analysts use to picture Ukraine as they think about Ukraine. It was interesting that he said this is the map of Western analysts. And I thought that was an interesting choice of words. But as you can see, the map that you've put up on the screen, it's a pretty provocative, pretty controversial, I guess, for the West map for them to see. But it's an interesting map nonetheless, because you kind of see Russia, perhaps what it was maybe, I don't know, say 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I mean, this is what they would call Novorossiya, what it was way back when. And you also see in the map what Poland, Romania, and Hungary looked like before Ukraine was under pretty much Soviet rule, and after the various wars, after it was partitioned and redesigned, and then all these things that happened to Ukraine during history. But the map that he put up is an interesting map because it kind of shows all of this territory the way it was back in the day.
And the angle that I was going to try and come at this from was, you'd say that in today's podcast about Orban, Porty, your speaker of your mics, earphones are getting a wee bit of feedback there, buddy, just so that you know, if you can just avoid that clicking. The angle that I was coming at, was, you'd said in today's blog that about Orban had pretty much stood his ground.
Yeah.
And you could see how this could end up materializing if there was ambition from the Austrians and the Polish to kind of stand their ground and take that wee bit of extra ownership that the Ukraine, the bill that was getting passed in the Parliament today or yesterday. So there's something happening in Scotland, supposedly next year, an independence referendum on the 19th of October 2023. And I don't know if you follow the Eurovision Song Contest. I don't, but it is news that Ukraine won it. Whether they won it or whether it was gifted to them by, I don't know, people's confusion over the propaganda that they've been fed. So they're looking at holding it in the UK. Now, this is their words, the UK, but Scotland are trying to put in for it. I don't think it's a good idea to hold a festival that will be covered in butchers' aprons, or Union Jacks is the term, in the lead up to the months leading up to a Scottish independence referendum. What's your thoughts on that, Alex?
I think the trend right now across Europe is that I'm trying to think of the right words. I was going to say kind of like the Pandora's box has been opened, but Putin has definitely done something. He's pushed the world. He's made a decision to push the world towards a different type of thinking as to what it means to be sovereign, and what it means to get back to your historical roots, I guess, is an interesting way of putting it. I think what Putin has done with this, the Russians call it a special military operation, the West calls it a war and an invasion. What he has done is he has said, you know, we tried to make this Ukraine thing work, and it just can't go on any further, can't work anymore. We've been pushed into a corner and we now have to take action. And the map that you put up on the screen is a map that goes back to the historical roots of the territory that is now currently called Ukraine, but it harkens back to a different time. And I think that is the trend now that we're going to see across Europe and maybe across the world, but definitely across Europe. And the more this trend continues, the more the elite powers that be are going to try to centralize because they can feel it coming too.
Yeah.
And going back to Orban's point in his message was that, look, as Hungarians, we're going to control our own energy. Europe is coming along and telling us, no, you have to give us 15% of your energy. And Orban's point was Hungarians are never going to go for that, whether your intentions are good or bad, he said, with regards to Brussels. Hungarians are going to decide on their own energy policy. But you see, Brussels is now seeing where the trajectory is going. And they're saying, you know what, we need to figure out ways to centralize things. That's the real point of this 15% energy rationing. On the one hand, it's there to save Germany, but on the other hand, it's about the elite central powers saying, what Putin has done is he's sent us on this course where we're going to see a lot of countries and a lot of territories start to say, you know what, we need to find our own sovereignty path as well. But you're going to have the pushback where the powers that be are going to say, you know, we better start centralizing things now or else. So you're going to see this happen. But you know, I think the train has already left the station, if you want my own opinion on these issues, and lots of maps are going to change.
Yeah, I think so. John, I'll come to you. Is there anything any
Yeah.
questions you want to go for, Alex?
I'd be interested to get your thoughts on as Peter's alluded to, there's maybe 6 billionaires in this country that own the British media, basically own the television stations, newspapers, and it really is, it's a hellish position to be in when you're trying to get any sort of genuinely independent news. But what I find fascinating and interesting, if you look at CNN and the BBC, and that's the same, they do so much human interest story in the Ukraine thing about how families have been slaughtered, murdered and everything else, which is true. But I don't remember the likes of CNN doing this human interest element when they were bombing the shit out of Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria or Libya. They weren't interested in the person underneath the American bombs. So it's just so interesting that it's now Russian bombs. They want to do it as a human interest story because that suits the Western narrative when they weren't, and they're total hypocrites to be doing what they're doing when they've done what they've done in all these other countries that I just mentioned. So, and a lot of people here in Britain forget there was a coup in Ukraine. That's how they came to power. And if you remember John McCain going over there, remember John McCain, the ex-presidential candidate, he was over there many years ago, stirring the extreme right wing, who included Nazis, supporting them, and you can have no doubt the other dark forces there empowering these people as well, which actually helped to contribute to push Ukraine into a war. And I personally think, a lot of people think as well, that this Ukrainian war is an American proxy war, because there's been people who worked in the State Department said years ago that they were going to make this happen. They want to surround Russia and provoke Russia and use another country to fight them. And that's always been their policy, to provoke Russia, damage Russia, and I don't support Russia in any way, but that's always been the American narrative. They've done it all over the world, whether it be using covert means or not, using mafia pools. They do it all over the place, and it's nothing new for America to be doing what it's doing, but they're certainly not the good guys, and Britain's hand in hand with them. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, the Russians explain it like this. They say that the Americans see this war as starting on February 24th, 2022. The Russians say this war started they are finishing a war. They're finishing a war that started in 2014. And so, you know, you can't, you know, networks like CNN and these mainstream media networks, they never remember history. They never put things in context in a historical way. And you mentioned a lot of countries that have gone through a lot of suffering during war, and war is a terrible thing. But we also had upwards of around 14, 15,000 Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the Donbass who were killed from 2014 all the way up to 2022. No one talked about them. No one said anything about these people that died. And to make matters worse, these people should have been protected by the Minsk Accords, of which Germany and France were signatories. If Germany and France had just abided by the documents that they themselves negotiated and signed, not only would Ukraine still be the Ukraine we remember before this conflict started, but Lugansk and Donetsk would be part of Ukraine as autonomous republics, but they would still be part of a federated Ukraine. And Ukraine would have been neutral, and none of this would have ever happened. And I'm saying this because France and Germany were supposed to make the Ukrainian government abide by these Minsk Accords. They never did it. So CNN forgets a lot of things. And obviously, they do it on purpose. Obviously, the enemy is Russia. I don't condone war. I don't condone any type of suffering. But we just can't go along and think that the narrative is Putin woke up one day and he's this irrational, crazy man who said, today I'm going to invade Ukraine. That's ridiculous. And then if you put it into even more context, you're telling me that Putin one day decided that he's going to invade Ukraine and he's this crazy guy. But on the flip side, he's this mastermind, super uber genius who manages to control American elections, control the American economy, puppeteer Donald Trump. You know, they're all twisted in a pretzel. And that's why their ratings are sinking. That is why, because people are not buying it anymore. I really believe that people are starting to wake up. And the reason they're starting to wake up is because things are now going to get hard for everybody on a domestic level. It's going to start to hit us at home. All of this that's happening is going to start to hit us at home. And it's not only Ukraine, but there is a part of it that's Ukraine. There's a lot of other issues, the lockdowns and all of these things as well. But once people start to feel it in their pocketbooks, that's when I think people are going to start to say, maybe things are a little more nuanced than these Hollywood script narratives that CNN is feeding us.
Mm-hmm. Aye. Porty, over to you, mate. Now, you can do your wee bit right about now if you want.
Thank you. My question's really on the sanctions. Yourself and Alexander have spoken about that quite a lot, the gas, the oil, the wheat and such like. Do you see a possibility now of the EU collapsing, finishing?
Yeah, that's a great question. The EU kind of has a talent for existing. It doesn't have a talent for prospering. It doesn't have a talent for doing the right thing. It doesn't have a talent for diplomacy or anything like that. It just has a talent for existing. It always finds a way to exist. That being said, this is going to be perhaps the greatest test the EU has faced to stay together. And I think the sanctions have a real possibility to break the EU apart. And I'll say this because I think the leadership of the EU is probably the worst we have ever seen. I mean, these people, Lagarde, Ursula von der Leyen, Michel, Borrell, these are some of the most incompetent, worst leaders we have seen. And as a matter of fact, this goes across entire Europe, whether you were talking about Boris Johnson, who's now gone, Mario Draghi, who's now gone, whether you're looking at Mark Rutte, or even here in Greece with Mitsotakis, every leader, one after another, is worse than the next. So it's possible this time around. Is it probable? I would give it 50-50. Germany, I think, is going to be the key. Perhaps Italy as well. If we see a conservative right majority or supermajority take power in Italy, then the EU is in trouble. If the Olaf Scholz government collapses, then Germany is in play. Germany is going to be deindustrialized. This is what's happening right now. The German economy is in free fall, and they're doing it to themselves. They're doing it to themselves. They don't have to do this. The UK, I'm sorry. You see, I did it.
Just the consideration. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good enough, Alex.
Yes. Boris Johnson, he made a mess of things. He made a mess of things. He's traveled to Kiev twice, and he's about to go a third time, from what I understand. I don't understand what this fascination is with Ukraine, what this fascination to pour money into Ukraine is about, what this fascination to pour weapons into Ukraine is about. I have not seen any type of treaty. I have not seen any type of alliance. I don't understand why this is happening, but he's pushed things to the cliff's edge. And I believe that that his policies are going to have major repercussions going forward. Major.
Yeah.
He says he worships Churchill, from what I understand. That's his big thing. His big thing's his ego and his belly, mate.
Yeah. He's to be fair, he was a buffoon that's been manoeuvred into position to I don't know, for the rich people to capitalise on the rest of the electorate's misery. There's been donations. He's a puppet. There's been donations for Russia to most of the Tory party, and it's an absolute sham. Now,
well, Peter, if you look who's in the House of Commons, Lebedev, who was a major donor to the Conservative Party and Boris Johnson, he's now in the House of Lords, voting on British laws. His father was a KGB agent, and Boris was away to bunga parties in Italy without his special branch protection, speaking to KGB agents. What the hell was that all about? He's admitted he'd done it. And you've got KGX or FSB, whatever you want to call them, Lebedev, and that. Now, he bought his way in there, and that just shows you how corrupt the British system is, that you can buy a lordship to donate to the Tory party. It doesn't matter where you come from and what your policies are. And the annoying thing is for us in Scotland is these are the people that tell us we can't have an independence referendum. Scotland is a sovereign country, and it doesn't need Westminster's permission. But the media, and I've got to say, a lot of people in Scotland believe the media that we can't do this. We can do it. They can't stop us. They just want to keep the narrative. We'll control you. We'll tell you when you have it and when you can't have it. And it's either now's not the time or the answer's no. And that is not acceptable. We're going to be doing this. Whoever takes over for Boris Johnson, you've got Liz Truss or Richie Sunak. They're both puppets. And I find both of them terrifying. And I actually hope it's Liz Truss that wins, because she's even more terrifying. And she's a puppet. She's a terrible orator. This was a person who was a Remainer and a Liberal Democrat. She's now sold her soul to be a hardcore Brexiteer. So MD Blees, she says she's a weapons grade opportunist. MD Blees, a word she or they like say is an absolute clown. And all they do is continue to push the political narrative further and further to the right, impoverishing more and more people. Even yesterday, Boris Johnson was on the telly saying they can't do any more about people's bills and that. Bills are going up again in October and January. He said, tough, you'll just have to learn to live with it. People can't afford these bills. People are going to get increases of 500 quid over the next £1,000 by the time it gets to January. And these people don't have £1,000 to spend a month, let alone spend it all on electricity and gas. And he's basically washing his hands of it. And that's what whoever gets in to be Prime Minister, they'll say all the right things to get the job, and then they'll just shove it to the side. And then the media will help them. It'll be Ukraine, will be the narrative. It'll be something else. They'll push it down the political agenda, and people will get poorer and desperate. And I'm really concerned about what's going to happen to people in the disunited kingdom in the winter when it's cold. Old people, poor people, they can't put the gas and electric on. They don't give a shit about these people, excuse my language. And if Scotland doesn't grab this opportunity, then frankly, we deserve all we get for being so weak under such a threat. There's a wee rant, Pete.
Well said.
You know, Alexander said an interesting thing during our live yesterday, and he was talking about the Russian oligarchs in London, in the city of London.
Mhm.
And he mentioned that, because someone asked, why does, why do the elites of the UK, both parties, Labour and Conservative, why do they hate Russia so much? And he said one of the reasons actually has to do with the fact that all of these Russian oligarchs, when Putin came into power, Putin gave the oligarchs a choice. He said, look, you keep your money, but you stay in Russia and you employ people and you run your business and all of these things. The party's over, in other words, Putin said. This is kind of like a famous meeting that everyone knows about. And then he also told the other oligarchs, or you take your money, you get out of here, never come back. That's it. You're done. And so a lot of the oligarchs, of course, they go to the city of London and they set up shop there. And one of the reasons that you have so much hate coming from the elite class in London, both sides of the aisle, both parties, is because the Russian oligarchs still hold that resentment over Putin and over Russia. And those are the very oligarchs that pull a lot of the strings of the political class.
Well, I'm going to play a wee short clip here, folks. So if you give me a wee second, I'll put it on. This was one of the potential leaders of the disunited kingdom. And we can get your thoughts on this once we've had a wee chance to look at it. So this was Liz Truss appearing on Nick Ferrari's LBC.
Sounds terrible, Pete. It sounds terrible.
Is that?
I watched this earlier, right enough.
Any school in this country.
Yeah. And Alex, just for your information, just like that, Liz Truss has said, I think Peter's going to refer to it there, as they want to take away people's right to strike. Is that not terrifying? That's a human right to be able to withdraw your labour. And she's talked about banning strikes. Is that not horrific in this day and age? That's how far right we're going. Back to 1933 Germany. Is that not horrifying?
Well, the country's on the verge of a general strike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, Liz Truss is, the more I learn about her, the more I understand that she'll say and do anything as long as she can remain in power. That's the type of politician she strikes me as. I honestly don't think she's left, right, or center. I don't think she's Tory or Labour or anything. I think she's just all about the globalist power agenda. That is how, the more I learn about her, because she's kind of new to the scene for guys like me. The more I learn about her, the more I realize that she'll go whichever way the wind blows and whichever way she can stay in power.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was just like Boris Johnson. He originally started being quite pro-European. He seen the way the wind was blowing, and then out in front, this is the way to go. So political opportunists, weapons-grade political opportunists, and people are so naive to listen to their bullshit. It really is disturbing.
Right. Well, here's another wee clip that I would like to share. It's the other leadership hopeful. Hopefully the sound's a wee bit better on this. It's Rishi Sunak.
Rishi, we're out of the European Union, but we're seeing a real threat to our own union with a lot of sabre rattling in regard to Scotland. How are you going to keep Scotland in the UK?
Yeah, no, look, that's an absolutely vital question. And we're under real risk. The most, the best things we can do are be firm with Nicola Sturgeon about another referendum. We need to make sure that in government in Whitehall, that we don't just devolve and forget, which for many years has been the institutional imperative, where we just push things over to them and then we forget about it. Now, we as UK government ministers have to be more active in Scotland. We have to be more active about delivering benefits on the ground to the people in Scotland and working constructively there to do that. And crucially, when you're countering nationalism, we can't just talk in arguments to do with our head. Now, it's easy to talk about borrowing and debt and trade and pensions and currency, but ultimately nationalism is a seductive and romantic idea. So we have got to make arguments about the union that speak to people's hearts and speak to their emotions, because if we focus just on the practicalities, we will not be successful. And I think we can do that, because my grandparents, when they emigrated here, they didn't emigrate to England. They didn't emigrate here because it was geography or lines on a map. They emigrated to the United Kingdom, and that's because it represented a set of values and ideas, and it's those values and ideas that are precious and that form the bonds of union, and those are the values which we must defend.
When Nicola Sturgeon says Boris Johnson has done great damage to the United Kingdom, the Union, is she right?
Well, I mean, Boris Johnson has made sure, actually, that we passed a piece of legislation that allows us now, for the first time, to actively go and do things in Scotland and demonstrate the benefit of the Union in places like Scotland. He deserves credit for that, and that is now allowing us to do something that we could never do before, and it's making a real difference on the ground.
Rishi.
Right, so Alex, I'm going to ask for your thoughts on what Rishi Sunak, first of all, and what you heard there.
Once again, you hear the terms values being thrown out there. You hear that a lot. It's all about values, and we got to show that our values are better than their values. They throw around the word, these are nationalist movements, and all these words, they worry me, because one of the reasons we have what we have with Ukraine is because when the EU moved in to town in 2014 with the coup, they brought about the EU values, and they wanted to change people, and they wanted to force different ideas, and they wanted to ban languages, and they wanted to do all kinds of things, because if you don't subscribe to the EU values, well, then you're a non-person. You're a non-citizen. You're the enemy. You're a Russian nationalist or something like that. Those are the words. And so, I wish that politicians like Rishi Sunak and these guys, it all seems like they're copy paste type of characters at this point in time. I wish when he gets the question, did Boris Johnson mess things up? He would say, yeah, he messed things up. Mm-hmm. I wish we would see politicians start to say, you know what? This is not about values. I don't even know what they mean anymore when they say values. Mm-hmm. If this is about, the United Kingdom, or as he says, convincing Scotland to stay part of the United Kingdom, or convincing Donetsk and Lugansk to stay part of Ukraine, or whatever it may be, it should take practical steps. I mean, you need to show people that you belong, but to show them with practical actions. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're constantly missing in Europe, even in the United States. We're starting to see the fractures. You can't demonize people. You can't talk about values, and you have to show them with practical steps that this is why A benefits and B is not beneficial. And people are smart enough to make up their own minds. I mean, people are not as dumb as these elites think we are. And if you show them the practical benefits of certain things, then people will say, well, it benefits us to remain, or it benefits us to leave. And whatever the decision may be, you have to, they're always telling us about democracy. So, I tend to believe if it's democracy, it's democracy, very much like Brexit. The vote was taken, it was taken. That's that. Now you see politicians like Boris Johnson or Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak. It seems like they're pulling, the kind of bait and switch with Brexit now. no one's completed the task that people voted for. And that task has to be completed with actions, not words. It was great for Boris Johnson to campaign and say, I'm going to be the one to get Brexit done. Okay, you got it done. And then what? Then what did you do? You gave billions to Ukraine. What does Ukraine have to do with completing Brexit? Nothing. Zero.
Zero. They seem to think that this Brexit's opened a Pandora's box for them. They can do what the hell they want. This is reinvented. I mean, they call us Scottish nationalists, but they're British nationalists, and this is Britain's the world gave the world imperialism. It gave it colonialism. So to claim that we're nationalists and they're somehow protecting British values is an absolute falsehood. I mean, they've got a whole false language of their own. These people, British people that go abroad, they're never immigrants. They're expats. They don't even want to use the word immigrant when you're British. They say you're an expat if you're abroad. You're not an immigrant. That's how far up their own arse they are. They can't admit what everyone else is a bloody immigrant. But if you're British, you're an expat. It's just a falsehood, an utter falsehood. So this Brexit is just given, and you understand the words of that guy, stood up and asked, how do you keep Scotland in the Union? It's no, well, what democratic choice has Scotland got? That's an English person living in England asking a potential British, but how do we keep it? It's like keep my dog in a cage. Excuse the Scottish tones here, but how do we keep it in its box? We don't want it making up its own mind. We want to deny it democracy, and that will not stand. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to come to Porty. Porty's going to show us a wee something because Alex normally takes himself walks round about Athens. Wait, Porty, I'll do a wee video while you're getting yourself ready. Have you ever seen Tedros doing a salsa? And guys, has anybody ever seen Tedros doing the salsa? Well, here you go.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. That's Tedros doing a wee salsa here. So Porty, if you can just give us your wee explanation as you're doing a wee guided tour here.
This was built, I believe, or they started to build it in 1822. Panathan, if I'm pronouncing it right. It's the disgrace of Edinburgh. It was meant to be the national monument. I thought it would remind you of something, Alex. Built by William Playfair, I believe. He was the architect. But it was about 40,000, I believe, to finish it, and they only raised 16,000. They ran out of money, and it was left. It was never finished.
So it's a wee bit of Scottish history culture for you. It's not the same as what you offer every day, Alex. Obviously, it's more pleasing in the eye, and there's more romantic stories to it. But
yeah.
So Porty, thanks very much for it, because Porty stays not too far for this, and he thought I'm going to actually go a wee walk up there.
No problem.
And
Thank you.
try and do something just as a. I don't know, just as
That's
to show
awesome. Yeah.
thanks very much for doing what you do, because it's appreciated. There's a lot of people online that are commenting. So I'm going to go to some of the comments first. So earlier on we had Alan saying after the Cold War ended, the West and the East started to question their political masters because the brainwashed fear of war was neutralised. They are now working together to put that fear back into citizens, to put us all back into our boxes, just as John's just said. Yet again, the common man, woman and child are the cannon fodder being used to bring that fear back. We should remember the original trade union movement that was built on breaking laws that kept the common man down. It's time they started using these powers again. Right, so that's for Alan Petrie, who's commenting on Facebook. We've had comments for another couple of folk. Karine Kizzy-Wiz on YouTube, and also you're on YouTube. Thanks very much. I'm surprised nobody's come in with any questions, because somebody asked me some questions earlier on. And one of the questions that I got asked to ask you, Alec, was how many times have you walked round about the area in which you cover?
A lot. I walk a lot. In Greece, I don't have a car. I love to walk, and I've been doing the walking kind of news thing for a while now. This is actually my fourth go at it, and then it finally started to catch on. And the first times I would do it, it was just about saving time, because I'm running around, I'm editing videos, I'm uploading videos. And I was just like, I just don't have the time to sit at a desk and prepare things and do it. So let me just do videos as I'm walking from like my place to a cafe or something like that, or to whatever destination. And that's how it just kind of came about. But, I walk around my neighborhood, and sometimes I decide to go to a nice historical spot. Sometimes I just run into a spot, and other times I'm just walking around a normal street, an everyday street, which many people, aren't don't usually see on travel vlogs. The travel vlogs that you see on YouTube are always, they're showing you nice food and nice restaurants, and everyone's living it up, and beautiful people and beautiful sights. That's not Greece. Greece is a beautiful place in some parts. Other parts, it's a little more rough. It's, people say, Alex, there's all this graffiti there, or it's this and that, or this is what it's like. This is a normal neighborhood in Athens. Not everyone is living next to the Acropolis or something like that, which is much more well kept. And hopefully I'll be traveling around Europe. So I do hope to make my way to many countries and many destinations. Scotland is on that list. And and I just want to kind of spend a week in different places and just kind of go around and talk about the news. So that's my plan going forward in the next 6 months.
Well, I'll look forward to that. If it happens that you come to Scotland, we can maybe catch up at some point. Depends where you're going to be, obviously, because it's good to have touch base with people like yourself that are doing similar things. And the reasons that I think that you're doing them are the same as the reasons why we started it. It's because there's no that fair bit of news. There doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel, and it's always doom and gloom. But you keep on having to pay for this doom and gloom, for the mistakes that these people, these politicians, and our celebrity politicians, as I call them, that are just there for the fame and to make whatever they can for their families, their foundations, and everything else that goes along with it. If you look at Clintons, if you look at the Trumps, if you look at the Bidens, I mean, I know that you've had some issues getting some material uploaded, and you suffered a ban just a couple of weeks back. Now, one of my videos was banned, and I think we had similar sort of content. And I do like what I call is anxiety art, where I put like things together, and like Magpie, where you see like people posting things on Twitter, sometimes on Facebook, sometimes in other places, and you think, oh, that's controversial, have a wee look at that. So you grab it really quickly, and then the next thing you know, the accounts are banned, and you start to question, right, why are these accounts getting banned? And most of them turn out to be Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So I done some art, put them all together, and I tried to upload it, and they said that the content couldn't be uploaded. I've tried to break it down and do it in all different formats, and I know exactly the part that they won't allow me to upload. It's the part that gives away the game. So do you find that censorship has to be broken at some point? Somebody's got to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be broken, but I think it's going to take time. I mean, there's some good platforms which are free speech platforms, as they call themselves, Rumble and Odyssey and different platforms. But for them to get to the level that, say, a YouTube is at or Facebook is at is going to take a lot of time. And we can never forget that these platforms the existing social media, they've benefited from a lot of money, a lot of investment, and a lot of government help. I mean, they are where they are because they also have a lot of support from politicians, and now they pour that money back. So the politicians invested in them, the government's invested in them, and now they're reinvesting back into the politicians in the form of lobbying and sponsoring campaigns and getting them elected. So, I mean, it's, they've got a nice gig going on there. So, it's going to happen, but it's going to take time. And, the one thing that you can't stop is people's desire to speak the truth. A lot of people tell me, how come you just don't do a channel that speaks about, just traveling or walking around Greece? My father tells me all the time, just take a more, try to see things the way Biden sees things, or the way Boris Johnson sees things, and just try to, maybe be a little more diplomatic. And I'm like, I try to not curse. I try to be as diplomatic as I can, but the truth is the truth. You can't unsee what you see, and you can't, fool your audience either. And so, whatever they do with censorship, it will never work. Will it be a speed bump? Yeah. Will it stop people for a certain time period? Yeah, but it's not going to work. And new platforms will come, and new platforms are here, and they're growing. But it's just going to have to take time. And until it arrives, we're in for a very hard couple of years, I believe. But, time passes, it goes by, and it's never as bad as we think it could be, or it was.
Well, just on that, I mean, as you say, time passes. I don't know if you know much about Scotland's claim of right of 1689, Alex. And I'd like to give you a layman's terms to what it actually is, and also to any listeners or viewers that we've got tuning in. This is the fact that Scotland holds sovereignty over Westminster. It's not Westminster that holds sovereignty over the Scottish electorate. So I'm going to play this wee thing here.
This. Posted on Yours for Scotland by Ian Lawson, the 28th of July 2022. Regular columnist Mia answers a few questions. Question. What is the Claim of Right 1689, in layman terms? A document that removes the crown from the head of one monarch and puts it on the head of another. It is also a document that states that imposing absolute rule over Scotland is unlawful. In today's terms, and in the context of the political union with England, absolute rule means imposition of policies in Scotland that are rejected and not approved by a majority of Scotland's legitimate representatives in Westminster. In other words, our MPs, who happen to be the custodians of our old Parliament. Question. Did the document have legal validity when written? Yes, it did. Actually, it became part of Scotland's constitution. Question. Was it important at the time of entering into the Treaty of Union? It was so important that the records of the old Parliament of Scotland show that at the time the Treaty of Union 1707 was being debated in Scotland's Parliament, it was mentioned by several members of Parliament that not abiding by the claim of right was an act of treason. It is because of this that it was included as a fundamental condition in the Treaty of Union. Question. Does it have legal validity today? Yes, it does. It was, for example, mentioned during the resolution of the UK Supreme Court in January 2017, in relation to Brexit. In fact, abiding by it in perpetuity, and without modification, was established as a permanent and fundamental condition of the Treaty of Union. Question. Did the monarch in 1689 have to abide by that document? Yes, the crown was removed from the monarch, and that was that. If the monarch had to abide by this document, it means the monarch is not sovereign over Scotland, and they are, in fact, below the entity producing the document. Question. Did the Parliament of Scotland prepare that document? No. Some other organ did. This means an entity, different to Parliament, had, in Scotland, the capability to write laws, pass them, enforce them, and incorporate them into the body of Scotland's constitutional law. If another entity, other than the Parliament of Scotland, had the power to write constitutional law, this can only mean Scotland's Parliament was not sovereign. Question: did Scotland's Parliament have to abide by that claim of right? Yes, it did. As I said above, it had to include it as a fundamental condition in the Treaty of Union. If Scot
Right, so we'll stop it there rather than going through the full 6 minutes. You get the idea there, Alex, that Scotland, it's the people of Scotland that are sovereign, and we hope that by raising awareness of the claim of right of 1689, that we can reconvene the estates, so that it's the convention of the estates, so that we can do what's rightfully what's right for the country, right for Scotland. So people like yourself, with the profile that you've got, been given a wee shout out every now and again, that would be very much appreciated. Did you know anything about the Scottish Constitution before?
No, I did not. I have to admit I did not. But you know, I know that Alexander would definitely know about this. I mean, he's very well versed, not only on legal matters, but he's you know, when it comes to history, he knows the stuff. Yeah.
I watch both your own and the one that you do with Alex and I watch some of his own ones that he does himself. There was one that he done yesterday, actually. I was caught up halfway in before I got a phone call, and I'm thinking I need to get back to that. Now I wanted to ask you about Nicola Sturgeon. What's your thoughts, or what do you know about Nicola Sturgeon?
I know the recent news about the government. I'm not an expert on what's going on, but I haven't formed an opinion, to be quite. And I've heard people who are for Sturgeon. I've heard people who said no, has to go. I mean, to be quite honest, I still don't believe I have the information to formulate an educated decision as to what type of politician we're talking about. I do know that there was a scandal.
Oh, there's quite a few.
But there was a really big one about 3 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, or 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And actually, we did shows on this on the Duran. I think we did a show on this, but now I'm not. Well, I'm trying to remember what was that scandal. That,
well, see,
I think with her husband or something, correct?
Yes.
It's starting to come back to me. It's starting to come back to me. Yeah.
We're bound by court orders that we can't talk about what happened, right? So these are the things that we find that we are restricted by. We're hamstrung by. I don't know. Did you hear about the former British ambassador Craig Murray getting jailed for reporting?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
the scandal is
Murray,
intertwined with all
Craig,
that surrounds that. I'd be happy to at some point offline chat with you.
I've got to dig up the video that we did with Alexander. Yes, Craig Murray. I've got to find that video to refresh my
he was jailed
memory on
for reporting the truth about the Alex Salmond trial. That's the former First Minister of Scotland, who they tried to fit up. There was a conspiracy to try and fit him up on sexual assault charges. The main one, H, again, who we can't say names and things like that. She wasn't there on the day that she said that the offence that happened to her took place. She was tripped up a few times, gave so many different accounts of the statement. But currently, the First Minister is defending sex pests in her party, repeatedly defending sex pests after the stance that she took against Alex Salmond. So it looks to to the genuine independence supporter like myself. Now, not everybody that's on this this Zoom call has the same opinions. I've got very strong opinions about Nicola Sturgeon. That she is not for independence. She's not for Scotland. She was in support of Stonewall, who are crashing to the ground, especially after the Tavistock hospital getting closed, the GIDS clinic getting closed. Nicola Sturgeon's a big backer of those. Everything that she's done is divided the Yes movement, of which I see myself. I was never a what do you call it, a political party type person. I was always, it's the Yes movement, and it's what's best for Scotland. And a lot of people are like that, but the SNP want to try and control everything. They want you to sign a code of conduct to say that you can be a part of the Yes movement. And no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that for when you can't even tell me what a woman is. You know, I'm not getting myself involved in that. So she's splitting the Yes movement, in my opinion, and there's a lot of purpose behind it on their side, I think.
Can I ask you guys a question? I know that Alex Salmon had, I don't know if he still does have, but I know that he had a show on RT.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that portrayed in Scotland? Was there pushback? Did people not care, or was that used in any way? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Porty,
and I don't know if he still has the show. I don't know.
Porty,
if he still has it.
He's banned in the whole of Europe. You can't watch RT in Europe now. It was even in the news recently. It's been banned for the whole of Europe, and it's ironic that they banned RT, and now we've got another couple of channels, GB News and some other crap to replace it. So RT was banned, and we lost the feed even before it. But Alex Salmon's show, for what I remember, was quite well received by Alex Salmon's supporters. The British media portrayed it as him working for RT, but they forgot to remember or mention several years before that, Tory and Labour politicians were never off RT getting interviewed. So it was very hypercritical of these people to slag Alex Salmond for working on RT when he's no longer a working politician, if you like, at that time. So, but if you ever seen Alex Salmond's show, it was actually quite light-hearted in many ways. He done a bit in politics, and the less it was on social affairs, entertainment, like actors and actress, theatre, and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of social element to it as opposed to political element. So it wasn't particularly, in fact, it wasn't at all hard hitting or particularly politically biased. And personally, I quite miss RT because they done some excellent documentaries on Indigenous people in America, Indians and such, like how they've been treated, how when Indian girls go missing, they weren't looking for them, how Indians were kicked off their land and how they're still being abused in America. So there's a lot of human interest stories that RT America did that you didn't see in any other media. So I quite miss RT. I know it was the Russian version of the BBC, but at least it was the opposite version of what we get fed. So I quite miss it in that respect. Sorry, Pete, on you go.
No, Porty, on you go. What you got to say about
I was going to say, wasn't it made by a Scottish production company and sold to RT?
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
the RT had no influence whatsoever on the making of the programmes. In fact, I think it was Ed Davey was the last show that Alex Salmon did was an interview with the leader of the Lib Dems, Ed Davey. You know. And
Alex, just sorry, on you go.
I was just going to say, and Alex Salmon took a lot of hassle for that, for the British media or the English media, let's say, but the Scottish as well, I suppose. There's no difference.
The minute the special operations started, that was a stick to attack Alex Salmond and the Alba Party, because there was the Scottish local elections were coming up on May. So obviously between the 24th of February and the 5th of May, 6th of May, the Scottish local elections, the Alba Party who are a new party, who are trying to push for independence, and getting the same smears that Alex Salmon got to try and get him out of politics thrown back at him again. So there's a lot of skullduggery, Alex, in Scotland and within the disunited kingdom, and I don't know. It's good to kind of try and get the message out and get people aware of your plight, that it's not just as simple as we're all sitting here listening to the shit that Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson and every other Tory and every other unionist leader have said before. So it's one of them where we appreciate like people like yourself taking the time out, coming on, and hopefully try to like connect thereafter, and we can share some information, or we can hopefully catch up if you're going to be coming to Scotland in the future. But it's 8 o'clock now, and I'm really appreciative of your time. So I'll get Porty to say bye first of all.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Alec. Thanks very much, Porty. Peter, sorry.
No worries. John, on to you.
Corey, nice to see you. Good catch up with you. Alex, thanks for your information. It was inspiring to hear what you're saying, and I'll be looking out for you in the future. Thank you.
And Alec, for you, if you want to give a final message out to everybody, please.
Just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm very happy to be on this live stream, and I look forward to touching base with you guys. Hopefully, I'm in Scotland, and we can all, grab a beer.
Yeah, we'll do that. We can certainly arrange that if you're here. Right, so we're going to end the live stream there. And again, it's just thanks to Alex, to Porty, to John, for everybody at Tweet Street Scotland, for Cinnamon Bridges, for the Satirical Saltire, for myself, Peter. It's goodbye. Thanks very much, everybody. We're ending the live stream.